I thought we just saw our first. Yeah. Thank you. Did you hear that? I have another question. Yeah. Okay. What that is. I'll think about that. Okay. One more question.
Well, I think let's get going, shall we? We'll introduce you. Morning, everybody. Morning. I'm Bryce Hamilton from the Forum Committee, and we've got a number of people here now. There's plenty of people online, and there'll probably be others coming in, but today's presentation is certain to lift our spirits and warm our hearts. And it's about the work of the organization Can Do Canines, and our speaker is Laurie Carlson. She's been with Can Do for 25 years in a wide variety of roles, I've been finding out, and responsibility. So she's going to share with us some memorable experiences over those 25 years and the process of how the certain puppies that enter training through the organization are lucky enough to ultimately become service dogs. So let's give Laurie a hand.
Thank you, Bryce. As he said, I'm Laurie Carlson. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator at Can Do Canines. And this is Jo. She is a 3-year-old Labrador Golden mix who is in for final training. So she is close to getting placed with a client, and she's decided she wants to be a mobility assist. So we're going to talk about Can Do Canines. We've been around for about 37 years. Started in South Minneapolis as a hearing dog program. And so I'll be showing a video of kind of the types of dogs that we train, but that's how we began way back when. When I started, we were only training mobility and hearing in 1999 and serving Minnesota. And now we train 6 types of service dogs, and then we serve Minnesota and Wisconsin. So we have grown quite a bit. When I started, we had a staff of 3. We now have 48. So, and we're one of the largest organizations in the Midwest at this point. So pretty, and all thanks to, we have wonderful staff and very dedicated, but we could not do it without the volunteers. Our volunteers, our puppy raisers and everything have made us what we are and who we help today. Jo, are you flirting? Are you flirting with people? I have your kibble. I am the kibble holder. So, yes. She's a lab, so she will work for kibble all day long. Right? Yes. So we're going to start off with a little bit with video because visuals are great and there's some puppies in there and, that gets everybody excited. So, Jo, come over here. So, and it explains a little bit better, what our dogs do.
Founded this organization in 1989, and it was because of his relationship with his own dog, who really changed his life at a very low point. He recognized what dogs could do for people. He rescued a dog and became our first service dog, and from there, he turned this into what we are today. Service dog organizations in the world, actually. So our mission statement states that this is a mutually beneficial partnership, and that is really important to us, that this is good for our client, it's also good for the dog. So our trainers are determining what both the dogs are really good at, but also what does this dog love? So for example, we provide dogs for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. These are dogs that really need to be hyper alert, ready to spring into action.
And it might be just for quality of life things like alerting someone that their phone is ringing, or that they're getting a text message, or maybe that they've dropped something and don't realize that they've dropped something.
Good job.
But there are also safety issues, pretty serious safety issues, like a dog letting someone know that the smoke alarm is going off. And it will allow at least some of our clients to live alone when they wouldn't have been comfortable doing that before. We train dogs to help people who have issues with movement or mobility, or maybe have balance issues. And these dogs need to be very confident. They need to be able to do physical tasks on a regular basis for our clients.
Uh-oh. Can you get it?
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's about 9 years ago. Laverne comes into play and she's able to help me. When you have a disability, you want to be a part of the whole world around you, and you try to do a lot of those things, but not every day are you able to. And with Laverne, I can.
We have dogs who help people who have seizures, and so we need really affectionate dogs here. In fact, dogs that like to cuddle. They might lick the person's hand or their face, or just snuggle up against them while they're having the seizure. They're there to help them stay safe, but also help them come out of that seizure. You can be very disoriented.
Bronson will actually get underneath Cole's back and nudge him up to his side to a safe recovery position.
We have dogs who help people with type 1 diabetes. They let them know that they are having a blood sugar low. They can tell from the smell of their breath. And that's really important because a blood sugar drop is really dangerous. It can lead to confusion and disorientation. It can lead to a coma or worse.
Right when we got Ulrich, he made his first visit to my house with the trainer. I told the trainer I was feeling like I was going to be having a low, and she said, "Oh, great, let's just go see what he does." And he started staring at me, and it looked like he was staring a hole through my soul. And she said, just try to ignore him until he, touches you with his paw, because that's his alert. And he did. He put his paw on my knee, and I can't describe how that felt for the first time. And the other part, my kids were sitting there and they were like, "Mom, how did he know how to do that?" And I was crying, they were crying, the trainer was crying, and I was like, this is what this feels like. Like, he's gonna help me. Go get the juice.
We have dogs who serve kids with autism, and these dogs need to be absolutely unflappable. We call them bomb-proof dogs in the business. And they are there to keep the child safe, but they do so much more than that.
When Jaden was younger, he ran into the street, almost got hit by a car. So it was pretty tough before Paxton came along. The tethering is very helpful with being able to keep Jaden safe and still has that piece of dignity, to where he can still feel like, hey, I'm doing this on my own, while he's holding on to Paxton. So he enjoys a lot of affection from Paxton to where, he can kind of relax a little bit. And then once Jaden built that bond with Paxton, he was able to blossom a little more, develop more of his social skills. He can actually feel that confidence to have a conversation with someone, learning how to build friendships, learning emotions.
I had a mom not too long ago said this dog has rescued a little boy who was inside our son that we didn't know existed before. These dogs are changing lives, and not just for the client. They are transforming entire families or small communities. A great example is our prison program.
Can Do Canines has partnered with 7 different prisons, and the puppies come and stay for 1 full year, and the inmates are in charge of raising and training those dogs to be service dogs. The best part is that they can really put that focus and energy into the dog 24/7. So the beauty of that is the dogs can just move through the training program that much faster and have more stimulation, and they get lots more belly rubs, lots more cuddle times.
Another thing that's really important to us is that we always give our dogs away free of charge, because we never want someone who needs an assistance dog to not have one because they can't afford to buy it. And we're so thankful for our donors for that, because they're the ones who allow that to happen. And we have a huge network of volunteers that are crucial to who we are as an organization.
I can't say thank you enough to those people. You don't know who that dog is going to end up being with, but you talk about a genuine love that a human being has for others, that they are willing to sacrifice a portion of their time to make a world of difference for someone who is struggling. You know, it's changed my life.
All right. So a little bit about how do our dogs get to that point, the journey of a puppy, that type of thing. And she is part of our breeding program. So we have volunteers who we call breeder hosts. So they have dogs in their home, moms, dads. When mom is ready to have puppies, about 2 weeks prior, she will go to what we call our WAG Center, our Whelping and Growth Center, which we purchased about 2 years ago. It's out in New Germany, Minnesota. There's already like a kennel, and then we just retrofitted it to suites, birthing suites, and just really rehabbed it. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. Volunteers and staff are there 24/7 while the dogs are there. When they have the puppies, they are there until they are about 5 weeks old. So their eyes are opening. We have volunteers that are working with enrichment and surfaces, puppies, sounds. We have tiny little t-shirts we put on them to get them used to wearing a vest later on. It's very cute. They have tiny little t-shirts. But just all the little things, just getting them used to sounds and sights and feels. At 5 weeks, the puppies and mom will head to one of our weaning prisons, which right now is Duluth, although we're waiting to see if they renew the program. Federal things, not we want it, they want it, so we're just waiting. And Chippewa Falls is also one of in Wisconsin is one of our weaning prisons. So they will head over there. They'll start weaning off mom. Mom heads home, and then the puppies will stay there until they're about 10 weeks old. The inmates get to work with them on potty training, crate training, very, very basic obedience because they're very young. At 10 weeks, they will come back to our facility in New Hope, and they will go out to volunteers, of whom we're always looking for. We call it raising, or we used to call it Great Start, which I still really like that name, because even if, Joe, I know, you're bored. Just humans are talking. It's so boring. You come over here. Thank you. They need, at that time, between 10 weeks and 18 weeks, 19 weeks, they are a sponge. That is really the time to get them out and exposed to as many things short-term as you can. So our volunteers will take them in their home, continue the potty and crate training, take them to classes, and take them on very short outings to Target, to Walgreens, to those places. And once they're able to hold it through the night, they can go on to one of the other prison programs, because basically if you're in prison at midnight, you can't be knocking on your cell door, can I potty my puppy? So they have to hold it through the night. So they're usually around 5 months or so. They will head to one of our other prison programs, which is Rochester, Waseca, and Faribault in the south, and Sandstone, North Minnesota. Or we have some in Wisconsin as well, which is Stanley near Eau Claire, Jackson in Chippewa Falls. Joe, hey, honey. And then we just started Fox River in Wisconsin. So they will stay in the prison. It's 2 inmates per dog. They live in their cell. Usually they're all in one unit. A trainer goes in once a week and teaches the inmates, what they need to train the dogs to do. They still get prison breaks, we call it, because they still need to experience dishwashers and vacuums and kids and things like that. So they come in and out of there for short periods, but the majority of that time is done in the prison. We could not train as many dogs as we do without their help. It's a win-win. We get very well-trained dogs. They learn patience, consistency, unconditional love that they may never have experienced before. It brings the tension level on the units down, just everything, with the guards, with the dogs being there. So it's just beneficial to a lot of people. They are there, like I said, till about 14 months or so. At that point, they will come back out. At that point, they know a lot of skills, but they're still got a teenage brain, and they're like, oh, there's a bird, and you're like, focus, please. So they still need to grow up a little bit. So they go back to our volunteers that we are always looking for, and they will take them for a period of time till they're about 2. Depends, the poodles take a little bit longer to mature. But basically, once they can focus and that type of thing, then they come into our facility in New Hope. We call it, they come to college and they pick a major. Because at that point, we're not saying, you're gonna be this, you're gonna be this. We're watching, we're getting reports from the volunteers. What are their things? What do they like to do? What are their strong points? But at that point, they're living at our facility. It's a doggy dorm. She has a roommate, Nova, so it's usually 2 dogs per run, unless they're a diva and they don't want to share, then they get 1. But so they are there and they are working or playing, or volunteers are, I mean, they're pretty busy during the day. But the trainers who are there are then looking at them. What do they like to do? What's their niche? Because each type that we talk about has its own talent. Diabetes, they have to be very into scent and be persistent. The autism dogs, as he mentioned, they're very, I like kids and I'm just, and I raised Paxton, and he was from the beginning, he was an autism dog. I'm like, he was like Ferdinand the Bull. I just want to smell the flowers and everything is okay. And when he came into training, they tried different things. They tried mobility and he did retrieve, but it was 1 speed and it wasn't fast. So they're like, yeah, you're going autism. And I'm like, yeah, I knew he'd go autism. But yeah, so they each have their little talents. So then they're like, okay, you are slated for, so like in Joe's position, she's gonna be mobility. So they're like, okay, you like that, we're gonna put you in that. So now we're looking at the applicants that are approved and waiting for a dog who's gonna make a good match. Because there's a lot of factors that go into that. Is the person more sedentary and doesn't leave home as much? Or I work downtown, I take light rail, I travel. You're gonna put a higher energy dog with somebody like that. Don't put a higher energy dog with someone who doesn't leave home that much. That's just not gonna work. So there's a lot of little factors in making those matches. Then basically they meet. The dog at that point knows what the client needs. It's teaching the client how to work with the dog and how to be a team. And we place dogs in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Hey, Joe. Hi. She's like, I'm zoning. Yes, we'll show people what you know in a minute. If they're living in outstate Minnesota or from Wisconsin, they come to our facility and they may stay for a few days. We have an apartment there that is handicap accessible. They can come and go as they please while they're there, but it's really just meeting the dog. The majority of their training is going to be in their home and in their community, because that's where they're going to be. So we have field trainers that are going and working with them. Once they are solid on their skills, they're solid on their public access, then they are official, they are certified. They can always come to us if they have questions or they need new skills. But we're checking in usually once a year on if they need anything. Sometimes people have more of a progressive disease, MS, Parkinson's, where what we originally placed them with, and then 3 years down the line it may be something a little different. So we will help them if there's additional skills needed. We're also with them, throughout the life of the dog, and talking with them about retirement, which they don't want to hear about. But, what do you do at that point, and what are the steps to that? Someone had asked kind of what is and what isn't a service dog, which is a really good question. We use the word assistance dogs, which is basically the same as service. Because we belong to what's called Assistance Dogs International, the international term is assistance dogs, because service dog means something else in other countries. But basically a service dog or an assistance dog is a dog that's trained to help someone with a physical task to mitigate their disability. So examples of that are the 5 types that we train: guide dogs, allergy dogs, PTSD dogs, as long as they're doing a task for the person. Ones that do really important jobs but are not service dogs under the American with Disabilities Act, which is that public access thing, would be therapy dogs or facility dogs. They are assigned to a place. We also train facility dogs, but basically therapy dogs go into hospital, nursing home, whatever, and they're going in and they're getting petted and you know, interacted with, and that's wonderful. But they don't have public access rights. I can't take them to Target. I can't take them, they go to that place. Facility dogs are a little bit a step up. They also do not have access rights. They go to a place. So like we have several dogs right now at Children's Masonic. They will go over there, and one of them works with pre and post-op. So they are trained in specific skills when they're working with the patients there. So pre-op, they have, it's a very cute picture, I wish I brought it. They have a hat on the, like an operation hat on the dog, and the child is kind of practicing, oh, they give him a shot. There's really not a needle, but oh, we give him a shot, and this is what happens, and they kind of walk them through it. Post-op, you know, usually once you've had surgery, they want you up and moving as fast as possible. So it's an incentive. If you get up and, you know, you can walk the dog, and you can, you know, if we go to therapy and you throw the ball, you know, for the dog, it's getting them to do what they need to do, and the dog's an incentive. Yes, I know. I said ball. But basically, so those have been really great. Those are usually dogs we place maybe 3 or 4 a year. They're not dogs that we're going to take from a client, but maybe a dog that is a little too friendly out in public, that it's going to be hard for a client to kind of control that. So let's give them something else. Or maybe they didn't quite clear the health clearances enough to do heavy physical work, but they still have a work ethic and they want to do something, so let's give them that job. So that's kind of where those dogs kind of fall into place for us. As we said in the video, we don't charge for our dogs. It's a $50 application fee. That's the only thing that we charge. And it costs us on average about $45,000 from start to finish per dog. And we did 41 teams last year. Right now, puppies from newborn to in for training, we have probably over 200 in the state. I know, it sounds like an amazing amount of dogs. But so we have a lot of volunteers and a lot of people that are helping us with those dogs. And some dogs, we don't say they flunk, we say they career change. Which, you know, some dogs just don't have it. You know, they don't, as they're growing up, they don't like being in public, it's scary. You know, they go through fear periods and things as they grow up. And so, you know, we're just kind of working them through that, but some just don't. You know, they don't like the noise, they don't like children. I had a Sheltie that I was raising, and you could not convince him that children were not weird aliens. And he just did not transition well from place to place. He wasn't happy. And these dogs have to want to work. A client isn't going to be able to make them do this. They have to want to work. So he was career changed. He became a pet, and he was much more happy about life, and his world didn't change as much. It could be that they might career change due to health issues. All of our dogs go through eye checks. Hip and elbows are very prevalent dysplasia in labs, so they have to pass that. If they have severe allergies, they may not make it in the program, because we don't want to incur those costs on a client, and we want to make sure they have as long a working life as possible. So we have a long wait list for people who want to adopt our dogs. So, you know, it's trained, it's spayed and neutered, it's ready to go. So, so we really have no problem with placing the dogs don't make it in the program. But we have a pretty high success rate. I think we're probably around 75 to 80%. National average is 60, so pretty good. Yeah. I wanted to play one other video for you guys. Cody's up there. Cody! It is a prison program. Maybe you did. Oh, yay. All right, let's do full screen. I think we're okay. I think it came back on. So this is a video. It was a letter. It's called Letter to Liam. Liam is one of our mobility assist dogs that one of the inmates wrote to the client that was going to get him. after raising him for a year. So I told Bryce to get tissues, but he didn't, so. But it's pretty cool.
Can Do Canines has partnered with 7 different prisons, and the puppies come and stay for 1 full year, and the inmates are in charge of raising and training those dogs to be service dogs.
Yes, good boy, yes.
The best part is that they can really put that focus and energy into the dog 24/7. So the beauty of that is the dogs can just move through the training program that much faster and have more stimulation, and they get lots more belly rubs, lots more cuddle times. We have one inmate handler.
Okay, what are we still doing? Up!
My son's name is Ian. He is 9 years old. He has been
Can Do Canines has partnered with 7 different prisons, and the puppies come and stay for 1 full year, and the inmates are in charge of raising and training those dogs to be service dogs.
Yes, good boy, yes.
The best part is that they can really put that focus and energy into the dog 24/7. So the beauty of that is the dogs can just move through the training program that much faster and have more stimulation, and they get lots more belly rubs, lots more cuddle times. We have one inmate handler in particular, Mark, that is an extremely patient and caring dog handler that worked in the program and trained dogs for us. And one of those dogs was Liam.
Liam! Yes, good boy! Good job!
Our inmate handlers, what they're working towards with these dogs is that they want to get them to graduation. Graduation is all about our volunteers being able to walk up on stage and hand that leash over of the dog they've been raising and hand it over to the client to signify that, the dog's moved on and is now working with their client. And because Mark wasn't able to be there to do that for the ceremony, he ended up writing a letter for Liam for his graduation.
Liam, my dear friend. Wow, look at you, partner. The day we always talked about has finally come. You made it. I could not be more proud of you. As you embark on your new adventure of enriching the life of another, I want to thank you for enriching mine along the way, for teaching me to persevere for the sake of someone else when things got tough and I wanted to run, for helping me to consider the bigger picture and not just the one right in front of me, for teaching me that life is much better lived when it's made more about others and less about self, for giving me a clearer picture of loyalty, trust, and unconditional love, for showing me that I have value, that I have something to contribute, and that I am capable for caring for another living being, for never holding a grudge when I made a mistake or wouldn't put peanut butter in your Kong. And last but definitely not least, for giving me a reason to believe in myself and my family a reason to be proud of me.
It's absolutely incredible to be part of the prison programs. I get to see these inmates really, truly grow and change, not just in their dog training skills, but in their people skills that they can use when they get out one day. And they get the unconditional love of a dog again.
But you've got a job ahead now and a new life to impact. This is what you've prepared for, and I have every confidence in you.
Okay, get the brush. And give.
I have no doubt you'll never work a day in your life, as I know you're going to really love your job. It's simply who you are.
Thank you, sweetheart. Go close it.
It's been such a joy to be a part of your journey. You've taught me at least as much as I ever taught you, and I am honored to have had you at my heel
and at my side, and I'm incredibly blessed to have had a cellie as cool as you. And even though I'm still finding your hair and all my stuff, you'll always have a place on the great mat in my heart. So go forth, boy, fight the good fight, and continue to make a difference all of your days. I'll always remember my furry friend, Daddy Mark. Ah, jeez. Yeah, so, yeah, he's a special boy.
So, yeah, I told you, get tissues. But yeah, I mean, we could not do the job without these men and women, and they get a lot out of this program as well. And so it's just been really, really cool to see our programs grow, because when we started, it was just a few in Minnesota, and now we have quite a few. And yeah, it's just, and I have to say, I also volunteer and take the dogs when, I will take a dog out when they get out of prison, because they're always the best in the class. It wasn't due to me. But Jo actually was raised, she spent time at the Stanley prison, which is where Mark is. But I wanted to show a couple things that she can do, like we said, mobility. So she picks up dropped items. So, and she has to hold it. She can't spit it at me. She's got to hold it until I'm ready to take it, because someone might not have a lot of grip strength and things like that, so she's got to give it to me very nicely. They could pick up something as small as a dime, as big as a crutch. Really depends. The dime might be a little slobbery, but you can pick it up. Another thing that they do that we taught them is called a park it. And actually, it was thanks to the inmates at Stanley that figured this out. Usually, when they're out at a restaurant thing, we want them out of the way. So they go on and under the table, whatever, so they don't get stepped on and things. But one of them made up this particular thing called park. And so, so we have about 10 minutes. Do you have any questions about the organization? Yeah, wow. That's good. I have the quietest church mice, and I'm like, yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah. Oh.
Okay. I lived in Florida for about 12 years and moved back here. And when I was in Florida, I was volunteered and did some work with providing dogs for veterans who were suffering with PTSD and other disabilities. Does Can Do Canines get involved in that?
We have always placed with veterans. We just aren't specific to veterans. I think when I started in 99, there was a client, our first veteran client was in 97 as a hearing dog was placed with that particular client. So that's not a precursor, you must be a veteran for us to place, but we've always served veterans. But we don't train for PTSD. We're plenty busy with the ones that we train for.
Okay, so you don't work with veterans who need service dogs that are suffering with PTSD? No, we talked about it. There's a lot of organizations already in Minnesota that do. Yes. Our training director and our founder talked about, do we want to start PTSD? And what they said, well, if we were going to do it right, is we would need to have a psychiatrist on board, on staff. There's certain things that we would need to do, and we just didn't have the funds at the time to start that. So, but that being said, is if they have one of the other 5 types that we're working with, and say they're needing something with PTSD, is we're willing to work with another organization that trains, so like co-train. So that's something that, you know, we're totally open to. Yeah.
Other questions?
I was wondering, how do you get around their need to go outside for potty if you have a disabled?
They usually will nudge or let you know. A lot of them with the clients are usually on a schedule, you know, as you take them out when they first get up, and then you take them out about 9:30, and they just kind of, and if you know when you're going to be feeding them, is you kind of know when they're probably going to need to go out. Before they go out, say if I'm going to go shopping at the Mall of America and I'm a client, I'm going to make sure that they go potty before we go. But
what about I was thinking about the clients that don't have that kind of mobility.
The clients that are not able to do that, they have to, when we interview with them, we need to make sure that they have either a family member or a personal care attendant that's going to be able to potty the dog, exercise the dog, things like that. If they're not able to, that they have that backup. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions about the prisons. Were there any resistance to any of the prisons going on board, and how did they change their minds? And the other question is, are they all minimum security prisons?
They are not. Some are minimum, some are maximum. Sandstone, I believe, is maximum. And actually Sandstone, it is a particular unit that the inmates, the other ones aren't quite as specific, but Sandstone, it's called J Ward, I think, and they are usually ones that cannot interact with the general population for whatever reason, security, whatever. So yeah, they're on their own. But Rochester is minimum security. It's actually a medical facility prison. Duluth is a minimum security, so they kind of range it, so that isn't a decision maker with that. When the prison programs start, the warden has to be on board, number one, and then the staff. And so usually, like Faribault, when we started, Connie Rorick was the warden at the time. She's now one of our board members. She's retired and a board member. They had started with shelter dogs and then had moved to helping us. And so basically it's laying out the program. Usually they hear from a lot of prisons that already have one in place, and they kind of get feedback. When we were starting in Wisconsin with Stanley, they were kind of like, ooh, I don't know, and you know, what would happen with this? And I mean, it was all valid questions. And so actually another prison that had another organization, they had a prison program, they came up and answered questions. We had like this, and question and answer, and talked about, you know, where the dogs end up and what's going to happen. And so kind of sold them on that. And then when Jackson Prison in Chippewa Falls was ready to open, the warden from Stanley went over and was talking with them about here's what works and here's, you know, where we had challenges and that type of thing. But all the staff has to be on board with it. And for the most part, I mean, it like I said, it brings the tension level down in the units. It's just, you know, it just makes things easier all around. The inmates, and they interview the inmates. We don't interview the inmates. They get to choose who's in the program. They know the inmates better than we do. So they're the ones that make the decision on that. But it's an incentive for those inmates. If they fight, if they deal any of that, they're out of the program. So it's a huge incentive for them to behave. Yeah, she had a question. Gentle. Thank you.
So I have two questions. One is, how do you get your funding? And then the other question is breeds. I see mostly labs, and just curious about
Yeah, with the breeds, when we started 37 years ago, it was a lot of mixed breeds, shelter dogs and things like that. The success rate up to placement was not high for whatever reason. Sometimes it was health, sometimes it was behavior. We're getting dogs from shelters that we don't know the history on. And so, you know, a lot of time and heartache and whatever that didn't make it. That being said, either we took the best of the best out of the shelter, so they easily found a home if they didn't make it in our program, or they were just adopted. They said, yeah, adopt them out, and we found homes for them either way. It got to the point where we started our own lab breeding program, and so it's lab or lab golden mixes. As I said, we belong to Assistance Dogs International, so we are part of their breeding cooperative. So some of our dogs will go to other organizations as far as Canada. One went to Singapore, you know, just. And then we get some dogs from there. So isn't the same pool of whatever. We use a lot of Labradors and Goldens because they're very food motivated. As you see, Joe will eat kibble all day long as I have it. So they're very food motivated. They like to please. They transfer well from person to person. Everyone's a friend. So it makes it very easy to train that particular breed for service work. That being said, is we also train, as you saw in the video, standard poodles, because there might be a client or a family member of a client that has allergies. So we will work with standard poodles, which I like, and I usually am fostering a poodle. So different training. As I was talking to Bryce, I'm like I said, lab all day long. A poodle by the second time is like, I'm bored, let's do something else. So you gotta mix it up and make it a little more interesting for the herding breeds and poodles and things. But fantastically, you know, they get so attached to their clients, very loyal. And like we talked about graduation, and they get to meet their puppy raisers again. But as excited as they are to see the raisers, they're like, that's my person. That's my person, you know? And so it's really kind of nice closure for your, like, yes, I'm kind of insulted that you don't love me as much, but they're just so happy, you know, to be with that person that you can't feel too bad about it. And, but yeah.
Laura, you said Joe's 3. Is is it usually about 3 years from the very beginning to graduation?
Yep, from the very beginning to graduation. Yeah, 3. Yeah, usually between 3 by 4 they're placed with a client. So depends, like I said, on their maturity level, but. Oh, funding, yes. So it's, thank you. So funding is mostly individual donations. It costs us on average from start to finish, like I said, $45,000 from start to finish per dog. Some Lions clubs in Minnesota support us. The Rotary, some Rotary clubs support us. But besides during COVID, we haven't gotten any government funding or any of that. So it's, the majority is individuals. Yeah, some foundations and grants, but yeah. So
well, I told you at the outset that the presentation today would lift your spirits and warm your heart.
It's never
Let's
boring.
Give Laurie a hand, please.
Yay!
Thanks, Laurie. Next Sunday, our presenter is Todrick Barnett. He's the commissioner of the Minneapolis Office of Community Safety, and he'll be addressing the wide variety of safety concerns here in our city. So hopefully you'll be back for that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Materials over here. Thanks again, Laurie. Yeah.